Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So it's been a wild week in the news of SOF related content, but those of you who may be new to the channel after seeing those videos, we like to do some fun, sort of funny videos on the channel too that are special operations and special forces related. Okay, one thing I like to do, it's just for fun, is sort of some ranking videos, right? Which things are hardest, which are easiest, different stuff like that. So one I get asked a lot to do is ranking the special operation qualification courses from easiest to hardest. Okay, now this one's obviously a little bit tougher to do because none of us have actually been to all of them, but there's a lot of carryover in all these courses of different things that we learn and train. So you know, I understand what is really difficult in some of these and what is maybe not so difficult. Okay, so the way we're going to do this, we're going to use some fancy math and charts, I'm joking, to sort of assist us in determining at the end, okay, which of the special operations qualification courses are the absolute hardest and which are the easiest. Okay, so we're going to run through all the units. We're going to talk about what makes them particularly challenging, and at the end we're going to decide where these are placed. Okay, so we're going to go from shortest duration to longest duration is how we're going to go through them. Okay, so some of these courses are a lot longer than others. Some of them are more mentally challenging, some of them are more physically challenging, okay, and that also makes it kind of hard to determine, but that's how we're going to do it. Okay, it's going to be shortest duration, of course, to longest duration, of course, and we're going to decide at the end. Cool? All right, so let's do it. Jump in. Oh, and also, guys, real quick, we are not going to include any of the super advanced qualification courses like Delta or DevGru because you got to be in for a substantial amount of time before you ever even could go to those. These are the entry-level SOF units. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So first, starting off, is going to be only included because they technically fall under the umbrella of special operations, and that is going to be civil affairs and PSYOPs. We're going to put them together, get them out of the way. As you see on the chart, they're going to be in the bottom left of the quadrant in both the shortest and the easiest courses. Okay, not much to say here. It's just they're part of special operations, so I'm throwing it in. It is what it is. Sorry if you're in those units. If you've seen my videos, usually anytime these guys are included, they're always at the very bottom, and to be honest, this is from my personal experiences. I've never really had any impressive interactions with anybody in these units, so it is what it is, okay? Bias, right? Sorry if you're in them. You know, that's the way it goes. So, moving into next, okay, is going to be the Ranger qualification course, I guess you could call it, but it's called RASP, okay? It's where young soldiers go to sort of try out to go to Ranger Battalion, okay? RASP is only 8 weeks long, biggest thing about it, right? It is a total ball smoker, right? You're going to get physically destroyed the entire time while you do things like patrolling and land navigation, okay? It's basically a tiny version of something you might do in the Special Forces qualification course, okay? I'm not going to include, yes, I know that pretty much everybody in Ranger Battalion is expected to go to Ranger School after, but we are not including for any of these qualification courses additional schools that you go to once you're in the unit, okay? Strictly qualification courses. All right, next is going to be Navy SEALs, okay? BUDS, right? So BUDS is super notorious as a qualification course, but BUDS is only 6 months long, okay? So that's where it's going to fall. Again, these aren't in order yet. BUDS is super nasty, guys. Anything that's water focused and related, I can tell you, is brutal, okay? Water is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter how tough you might see some guy be, he could crush everything in the military. You put him underwater, you put him near drowning, and you'll watch him quit in an instant, okay? So it is the nastiest, and a huge portion of BUDS is water-based, out on the beach in the cold, shivering. I know that feeling coming from a dive team, and it's super shitty, right? So some things about, that's sort of the main things with the SEALs, okay? Pretty short course, but also super nasty, physically, mentally challenging, okay? So next, it's going to be MARSOC. Runs about 9 months, okay? MARSOC is pretty tactically based focused in their qualification course, okay? So they go through a basic skills phase, a squad unit tactics phase, close quarter battle, CQB phase, and an irregular warfare phase, okay? I don't know as much about their pipeline, but from what I've heard, it's a lot like the SF pipeline and the way it's run. Obviously, all of these courses, besides the first two, are super physically nasty, guys. Huge washout rates in all of these, okay? So yes, this is the same in MARSOC. This is not easy. It's a absolute physical meat grinder, but it's missing some of the like really nasty like phases and classes that something like the SEALs have to go through, as far as I'm aware, okay? You can correct me in the comment section if I'm missing any of these. Again, this video is a little bit harder to do, a little bit subjective, okay? Next one is going to be the Special Forces qualification course. Obviously, I have an intimate understanding of this, as this is the one I went through, okay? When I went through, it was still minimum 18 months. Most guys took anywhere from 20 to 24 months, depending on injuries or whatnot. Super long, okay? This is 3 to 4 times as long in duration as something like BUDS, okay? Super physically nasty through things like SFAS and SUT. Even MOS phases are pretty nasty. Robin Sage, right? It's physical meat grinder, and it's over a long duration, which makes it so challenging. There's a lot of time to screw up, right? And that's sort of what makes the SF qualification course as difficult as it is, okay? Now again, we're not including things that a lot of guys go to after, like Ranger School, and we're not including Combat Dive School or Halo School, okay? We don't go to those in the qualification course, unlike some of these other units, so I can't count them towards the difficulty, okay? I'm not going to be biased about it, right? So, next one is going to be our Air Force combat controllers, okay? 97-week program, so about the same as Special Forces, okay? I think, now again, the Special Forces qualification course, back up a little bit, it changes all the time with the duration. I think at the moment it's a little bit shorter, but it is what it is. Anyway, so Air Force combat controllers, another really long qualification course, okay? They have 10 different phases, and the thing about CCTs is they get attached to all sorts of different other soft units, okay? Like in SF, all my deployments, we had a Air Force combat controller as our JTAC most of the time, okay? So they have to be able to do any of the infiltration platforms. They got to be able to do Halo, Dive, all these sorts of things. It's kind of expected so that they can easily integrate into one of the other soft related teams. So they actually do those phases in the CCT course. So they do things like pre-dive, Halo, air traffic control, SEER, combat control, special tactics, okay? And then also they have some follow-on stuff like Special Operations Tactical Air Controller course, which I went to, that we had CCTs as part of as well. That's sort of kind of expected as part of their role, okay? So, excuse me. Okay, last unit we're going to talk about, and the longest in duration, okay? And this is not counting, let's say in Special Forces, the 18 Delta course, which adds an extra year, okay? So that actually makes it even longer. But for generalities, the Air Force PJ course, okay? It's the longest course, and it's heavily medical based, okay? So very technically and intelligence based challenging stuff, okay? Medic stuff is not easy, much like our 18 Deltas and Special Forces have to go through a super long medical pipeline, right? But they also, on top of that medical pipeline, again, have to do the same thing as the CCTs. They're expected to do all the infiltration platforms. They actually have to go to dive school in their platform. They got Halo. They got to go to airborne school, SEER school, and then their combat-related medic schools on top of that, okay? So really long school and super mentally, or super physically, mentally, intelligence, technically based challenging. They got to go to some of the worst ones like combat dive school, right? So holistically, pretty difficult, okay? So that wraps up sort of all of the units we're going to talk about. And now we'll look at all of these units sort of displayed on the quad chart together and sort of determine who we think is going to be the absolute hardest, okay? So taking a look, I have put You know, and I never put the Air Force very high on a lot of things, but I'm gonna say, in my subjective opinion, the Air Force PJ qualification course as the overall hardest, okay? Because it's the longest in duration, it's got some of the worst phases, it's got really technical and intelligence-based difficulty to it, so holistically, and you still get smoked physically, so holistically, I think it's probably the hardest qualification course to go through, okay? Right behind that, you're gonna sort of have SF and combat trawlers together, okay? And then I'm sort of gonna splice and put, even though it's such a short qualification course, I'm gonna put the SEALs right there with those as well, because man, it's all water-based, and water, even though it's 6 months, it's a absolute hell-based 6 months. Probably the worst 6 months out of any of the qualification courses by far. So they're gonna get moved up pretty high. Right behind that, MARSOC, right? It's very similar qualification course to SF. And then on the very bottom, you know, so, you know, Range Battalion RASP is gonna be sort of one of the easiest, right? Because even though it's really challenging physically, you only have to last 8 weeks, okay? So, and then of course, the very bottom is our, so I'm just gonna call them enablers, okay? That's really what they are at the end of the day. So, yeah, if you guys, you know, and anytime I do these videos, tons of people get upset about it and think that I should have put the places different. Go ahead and put it in the comment section if you think that. Again, completely subjective from my opinions here, but hopefully this, guys, gives you an overall idea. And then for some of you, a lot of young people out there looking to get into the military and go soft, hopefully this gives you guys kind of a total look at all the, in general, all the special operations courses and which one might fit you best to try. Okay, so that's gonna do it for today, and thanks.